Forward TV. The world is thinking.
Now this robot needs to learn how to walk. But the challenge is, the catch is that it does not know what it looks like. Right? So it does not know. You look at this robot, you can see it has 4 legs, but the robot has no clue what it looks like. Doesn't know if it's a snake, if it's a spider, if it's a tree, has no clue how these 8 motors and legs are arranged. Doesn't even know about legs. So what does it do? So imagine yourself sitting in a black box, no windows, no nothing, just a black box, and all you have are 8 knobs. And as you turn the 8 knobs, these knobs are connected somehow to motors, and as you turn these knobs, you can feel the box tilting left and right, forward and backwards, but you don't know how the motors are connected and what's the morphology of the machine. This is what this robot feels. So this robot needs to learn how to walk. So how does it walk? It can do random trial and error. It can move, if you're in this box, you could move the knobs, you can turn the knobs and kind of guess your way to make this robot move forward. But an alternative is to do a kind of this systematic exploration. So how does this robot work? It begins by making a random motion, randomly moving the motors. Okay, this is kind of the thing that Rolf mentioned, this kind of, what did you call it?
Motor babbling.
Motor babbling. So it begins by babbling, just moving the motors in a random way. And then it collects all the sensory information, and then it forms hypotheses about what it might be. And what you can see at the top left are all the hypotheses, different shapes, different self-images that it came up with that explain what it might be. These are all models that match up, that explain its sensations, the relationship between activation and sensation. Now, I'll show you this in a movie in a moment, and because you know what the robot really looks like, you'll know that most of the things that the robot is imagining it is are wrong. But insofar as the robot knows, these are all valid hypotheses about what it is. Now, here comes the tricky step. It then looks for the next action to do. That's in the green box. The next action to do that causes the most disagreement between predictions of these models. Why the most disagreement? It's like a scientist designing an experiment that causes the most disagreement between predictions of 2 competing theories. Because then the result from that experiment will refute at least one of the theories, right? Within a relatively small number of these babbling actions, it will figure out what it looks like. Now, with that self-model, it can figure out how to move, and because the model is pretty close to reality, what makes the model move will make the robot move in reality as well. All right, so let's see what happens. So this is one of our first runs. When you have a robot running, you never know if it's the last time it works, so you always have the camera running. This is one of the first times we turn it on, we let it babble and learn about itself. It unplugged itself. That's too bad. And so you don't want to let the robot babble too much. You don't want to walk off a cliff just to see what it feels like, right? So we tamed the robot a little bit, and let's see what happens. This is work led by Josh Bongard, who was a Rolf Pfeiffer student before he came to my lab. So you can see the thread running through. And here's the robot doing forming hypotheses about what it is. You can see they're all wrong hypotheses, but they all make the cube tilt in the same way. So insofar as the robot knows, these are all valid hypotheses. This is the 8th out of 16 trials. It's beginning to realize that it has 4 limbs, but doesn't quite know how they're connected and where they're connected and so forth. And this is the 16th out of 16 interaction with the world, and it's pretty much figured that it has 4 limbs. The actual positions are a little bit inaccurate, but it's good enough that it can figure out a way to walk. Here's the robot figuring out a way of moving. I don't know if we can call it walking, but and here it is actually moving in reality. So we were hoping for a evil spidery walk, but instead we got this lame way of moving forward. But when you look at this robot, you have to remember that it was not programmed to move. It did not have a model of itself before it started. nor did it do trials of walking before this, of moving, right? So we kind of bypassed these three things, and we allowed it, through this idea of self-modeling, to learn how to do something. So here's a